Hello, this is Rich Larson from Watermark Learning, and I want to welcome you to the IIBA certification chat for April 2018. I'm recording this session, and so if you have to leave early, you can access any of the Q&A at the end that you might miss. We're scheduled for a half an hour, but oftentimes we run over that because of the questions that people have. Again, I'm Rich Larson. I'm from Watermark Learning. I've been a CBAP for a long time. I'm CBAP number 21, very proud of that. I'm co-author and designer of a lot of our products and have coached and mentored and trained people for many years on CBAP certification. I'm no means perfect expert. I may not be able to answer every one of your questions, but I certainly will answer most, probably all, but once in a while I'll get a question I may not be able to handle, but that's pretty rare. Anyway, to get started, I want to welcome you, and I see a couple of people signing in. Tamet, hi, welcome. And to get started, look at the GoToWebinar question panel and send me in your name, your location, and what the weather's doing in your part of the world. That'll get you used to the question panel, get you typing, and please don't worry about spelling. Typos don't matter. I can read it probably, and if I have any questions about your question, we can just do a little dialogue as well. Hello, Debbie from Richmond, Kentucky. A little light snow there, but up in the Northland, it's a little bit colder. So yeah, Tomet from Akron, Ohio. Hey, Tomet, it's been a while since we've caught up with each other. Ashwini from Raleigh, and Ryan is logging in from Green Bay. Isn't April a little bit late for winter-like weather, I must say? Christine from Seattle, pretty much consistently around the US at least, the weather's pretty darn bad. So glad to see you guys logging in and getting used to the GoToWebinar panel. You can send in questions anytime, by the way. Hello, Rich from Minneapolis. I know it's very cold in Minneapolis and windy, and wondering if the baseball team will play this weekend in the snow. That's kind of a hoot. So you're here for IIBA certification. That could be ECBA, CCBA, CBAP. I'm going to launch a poll to get us started. First of all, the poll is going to be which certifications or the certificate are you interested in? So I'm going to let that go, and the poll is launched now. So for those of you that are on, if you could just complete this little survey, then yeah, good. Yeah, people are weighing in, and then that gives me some good input in terms of what you guys are here for. About 50-50 between CBAP and not sure. So I can spend a little bit of time up front going over some of the differences. Boy, about 92% of you are weighing in, so I'm going to close the poll and share the results. Here we go. With a little more than 50% CBAP and over 42% not sure. The best known of the certifications is, of course, the CBAP, and it is the certification for people that have had several years of experience as a business analyst. You need to have 7,500 hours of doing actual BA work. That doesn't mean work hours in general, because some of your work is spent administratively, and depending on your job, you might be managing projects, you might be doing testing, you might be doing who knows what, agile team member, you might be doing some SQL programming, who knows. But as your BA hours count up, you have to have those 7,500 hours or more to qualify. For CCBA, that's that certification of capability in business analysis, you need 3,750, exactly half. So a couple years of experience under your belt. So you know, I guess medium level versus senior level. And for ECBA, you don't need any hours. In fact, it's not even a certification, it's a certificate. It shows some demonstrated interest and knowledge about the BA profession. It's designed for people just getting started or don't have those 3,750 hours yet. And so we have these three different levels, and IIBA has crafted their program to allow our progression through those levels, and they have a fourth one out now, but it really hasn't been well defined. It's called the CBATL. Thought leader is the TL in that, CBATAL. Anyway, I'm not going to talk about that because that's not really even official yet. So most of you are interested in CBAP. So why don't you shoot in your questions? We'll get started. Hello, Becky from Louisville. Springtime, good. I'm glad to see somebody's got some better weather. I don't even want to say 2 degrees above zero for for how cold it is in Minneapolis, Rich. ECBA for you. So please get your questions to me. This is very informal chat. One thing I want to point out is that as a result of attending today, we want to encourage you. So we're going to send you a code for discounts on various products from us. We also have a ton of free resources on our website. If you go to watermarklearning.com, depending on the certification, you have lots of information. So you can get, so finding out more, and by the way, these levels for ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP are what IIBA is branding their certifications. You can go and get information and applications. Whoops, get back. Okay, our general email address here. We have specifics about different aspects, from applying to studying to final preparation and so forth. So we have also in our resources section application spreadsheets that really help you with your hours and organizing them. So check that out. And you, by the way, you can download a copy of this right now. You have handouts in your GoToWebinar toolbar that you can grab this PDF and get the links to the different resources. So Jennifer is asking, hi Jennifer, can any of the training be done off hours? Absolutely. So in terms of the training, do you mean the hours that you need to qualify? Because that's another requirement, and that is that you need to have 35 hours of BA training to qualify for the CBAP, and you need to have 21 hours to qualify for either the CCBA or ECBA. And absolutely, those can be done off hours, and it can be done in a self-paced mode, provided there is interaction with an instructor and that you have some demonstrated work that you've done. In other words, you can't just be looking at a video and get those as hours to qualify. Those don't count. What would count would be things like our Anytime Learning, which are self-paced, but you can ask questions of an instructor, and then you can practice using our online study exam simulator so you can demonstrate that you've done some work. Also, study groups qualify. If your local chapter has study groups, and we work with several chapters around the country to provide materials, they will qualify because they'll be moderated by an instructor who facilitates. And secondly, if you then do practice questions or other exercises during the study groups, that counts too. Okay, so thank you, Jennifer, for mentioning the poll. I will hide that. And anything else like that that is something I'm not oversighting, what's the word, that I'm not catching. Thank you, Jennifer. So this page of the PowerPoint has all the links now that you can see it, right? So thanks, Jennifer. And again, I want to point you to the toolbar in GoToWebinar to be able to download a copy of this, to get a hold of this. So other things that you want to know as far as the whole process of certification, we have resources, and amongst those resources, besides the application spreadsheet, is a number of webinars. And here's a couple of listed webinars here. We always put our latest IIBA certification chat out there. We have a webinar about certification in general, the BABOK 3, and we have a webinar with information about ECBA. So I want to urge you to go check those out. afterwards if you haven't already, and you can learn more about the different kinds of requirements for that. Plus, we also have a number of blogs that we produce, and I'm going to make a note to add that to these resources here, because we have a lot of information on our blog. Maybe you've seen it already, and then maybe that's where you heard about these chats. Yeah, to the PowerPoint for the chats. So I'd urge you to go there. So whenever you're ready, shoot me in a question that you have on your mind. What is it that you like to know about the certifications, about studying, applying, the best way to prepare, anything like that that you have on your mind right now. So I'll just kind of hang tight until I hear from you. If you want a shortcut to the application worksheets, the slides that you have access to have these shortcuts right in them right here. Okay, I see a question coming in from Christine. Hi, what's the difference between PMI certification versus IIBA certification? And we have also blogs on that too as well. The two competing groups for BA certification are the IIBA and PMI, obviously. IIBA has been out with CBAP since 2007. PMI started theirs 2014, and with slightly different emphases. The IIBA is focused on business analysis and largely the whole gamut of things before, during, and after a project. Although, truth be told, most of the tasks and techniques are done during a project. Still, their scope of business analysis encompasses virtually everything you might do. PMI's focus is primarily projects, although they would also be quick to say some of the stuff like needs assessment is prior to a project, and some of the evaluation things, tasks, and so forth are after projects. But so there's a slightly different area of emphasis there as well. Until late last year, there was no body of knowledge from PMI, whereas IBA is now on its third version of its BA body of knowledge. You probably are all familiar with it. And by the way, you needed to get a hold of that document, whether PDF form or a hard copy, in order to do your preparation. So if you're serious about certification, at some point you want to get that. And by the way, if you're an IIBA international member, it's a free download to get that. But PMI had a practice guide that was produced 3-4 years ago. And until last year, they didn't have a standard. Now they have a standard they call the BA standard, and it's kind of an extension of their practice guide with an additional domain on top of it, but kind of mirrors the BA body of knowledge. And some people are kind of upset by that, but I look at it from a standpoint of anything that adds to our knowledge as a profession and grows the profession is a good thing. So a logical question for you might be, and I'm going to just put words in your mouth, Christine, about why you might get one or the other, is that we typically recommend the CBAP for people who are pretty much 100% doing business analysis. And the PMI PBA is something to look at if you have more of a hybrid role, where you would maybe not 50-50, but say split time between business analysis and managing projects. Or maybe you give a significant amount of your time to doing testing. So maybe you have multiple hats you wear, where you have to have a more knowledge of how projects are run versus, BAs need that too, but the focus, say, in the CBAP and in the BA body of knowledge is more on what does a BA do within a project. So that's kind of a quick overview. Please send me in any follow-up questions, Christine or anybody else, if I didn't answer that well enough, or if you have more thoughts that you want to share. Okay, good. I'm glad it was helpful. It remains to be seen where this is all going to go in terms of IIBA versus PMI. The biggest thing for you in your career is which direction do you follow, of course. If you're a vendor like I am, and several of us at Watermark have CBAPs and PMI PBA, that's because we need to for our credibility's sake. I think for you in your career, you want to look at other factors about which one to go after, including which one does your organization tend to follow. You might be a real big supporter of IIBA, in which case CBAP might be then the natural follow-on. And like your colleagues, how many of them have CBAPs versus the PBA? Or maybe your organization's a real big proponent of PMI, and maybe you already have your PMP. Just curious, does anybody have a PMP right now? Because I know that was the first certification I had, because I got it before the CBAP was even out. But anybody have just shoot me in a question, if you will, through the GoToWebinar and say that you have a PMP or any other certification too. I'm just kind of curious what you guys have in terms of your backgrounds. So thinking about certification, it's on my mind. I'm going to be doing a webinar in a couple of months for a chapter about the value of certification and what does it mean and what are the benefits of it. So if you have questions of that might be an interesting conversation as well. Ryan, thank you for letting us know. We usually watch for links. There's a dead link, and I'm going to follow that up after. So thank you for that. Let's see. So if you're unsure, those of you that are unsure, you're just looking into this, and what's your reason for being interested in certification? If you could send that in, I'd be curious as well. So for Christina saying, almost all the PMs at your organization have their PMP. You're a lead business systems analyst and do not have any certification, but I'm interested. So again, I'm not trying to give you specific advice, but that's something to take into account. Just because somebody has a PMP or your colleagues have those, doesn't mean you need to go down the PMI PBA route. Again, I would look at how much business analysis are you now doing, and do you think you'll do in the future? If you think your career might entail actually doing more project management or doing other activities, such as being a Scrum Master, or maybe you want to be a product owner, you may want to look at other certifications. But certainly the PMP is a way to look at, particularly if you have one yourself, that might be a factor, not necessarily if all your colleagues just have PMP. So, okay, Jennifer said, I'm not able to download this PowerPoint. Where do I find the toolbar? Check the handout section. Has anybody found it? The handout section is where you would get that. So tell me, Jennifer, if you can't find that or not. Christine is, I don't see that, it was the top of the list. I'm sorry, Ryan is top, Christine is second. I took the BA certification program at UW last year for 9 months to prep for the next steps for certification. Wonderful. And how many hours was that, Christine? The BA certification program. And which UW was that? So I know they different UWs have programs as well. Ashwini is saying, can you please talk about best strategy mnemonics to remember details from the BABOK knowledge areas? I think you have to do some memorization in the BABOK. Obviously, you're not going to memorize everything or all of the inputs, the outputs, the guidelines, the techniques, the this and that, and the other things. But, okay, to start with, I would do it in a hierarchical fashion. You have to start understanding what the knowledge areas are. You have to know them cold, and I suggest you know them in the order that they are presented in the BABOK. And I know that business analysis can be done in any order, and can be done iteratively. However, it is somewhat human nature to be viewing the BABOK in a sequential way. And I know having taken a test myself, but also putting together a lot of test questions, sometimes that sequential order can make a difference. So I suggest you come up with mnemonics that are in the same order as the BABOK. And in our certification study guide, as well as our class, we came up with some different mnemonics. So oftentimes mnemonics with the first letter of the item you're trying to memorize. So for example, the different kinds of requirements, we came up with a mnemonic called BSFNT. You could think of it as a bus font or something for short. So you've got business, stakeholder, you've got functional, non-functional, and transition requirements, BSFNT. So something that triggers your memory is part of the battle. I'm not sure bus font is really anything memorable, but those BSFNT letters are the same letters as those requirements types. And I think that's important to memorize them. And by the way, too, that the order that is important because it goes from the high level business requirements all the way through the transition, somewhat like a project flow might go. And so therefore, having that in your mind is a helpful thing. Now that's just one example of different mnemonics. So starting with, again, back to my hierarchical notion, starting with the knowledge areas first, and then trying to tackle the tasks within the knowledge areas. And I think that's kind of a minimum goal everyone should have, to understand what the tasks within the knowledge areas are. Now, some people ask, well, how do I memorize all of the inputs and the outputs? And the answer is, I don't think most people need or want to do that. I think having a general framework is more useful. If you're the type of person that really thrives on detail and you learn best when you immerse yourself in details, then our study guide has some suggested mnemonics to help you, but not for everybody, because everybody's different learning styles. And we often have talked about 4 primary learning styles, and the detailed learning style is just one of those 4. So tell me, Ashwini, if that helps you, or if you need more follow-up from me on that. So next question from Christine. I do not have any interest in being a PM, however, I do have a lot of PM work unofficially. I have been in my role since 1998 at your company. So I think that would sway you as well. If you don't have any interest in going down the PM route, but depending on how much of your PM work you are doing now, I think any certification is a wonderful learning opportunity. To me, it's one of the benefits that's high on my list for why a person should be certified. Granted, it's more knowledge-based than skills-based, but I think knowledge first, skills second is always true. I've been doing training for a lot of years. So having that basis of knowledge of what are the generally accepted practices in business analysis or project management is helpful to doing your job. So the question is, Christine, how much do you think you'll continue to do PM work? And I still think you might end up with a CBAP role if that is what you are most functional about. Next, Debbie says the handout worked good. Thank you. I don't see the handout section. Do you see it now, Jennifer? Check the toolbar. Everybody should have it. I don't know exactly what it looks like because I have it a different panel on my end. Washington. Oh, Christine. Okay, not you. Okay, sorry, wrong W. Because I know University of Wisconsin has lots of CBAP as well. Thank you for that. Okay, let's see. And the reason I asked you that question about the number of hours, Christine, is that you have to, of course, have those 35 hours in order to qualify. So, oh, you found the handout. Great, Jennifer. Thank you. Good. Okay, next, Melody says, I know this may seem so basic, but no, please, any question is great. But can you say just how, in a very high level way, the steps to getting the certification? I know absolutely nothing about the certification process. You bet. What I'm going to start with is CBAP and CCBA. I'm assuming, unless you tell me that you're interested in ECBA. So if you could do that for, I can cover that second as well. But for CBAP, first thing you want to do is get the IIBA handbook. So I'm going to go back to the other slide on my PowerPoint deck. And come on, PowerPoint, there we go. The handbooks here is what you want to get a hold of first. They're pretty short. They're not very long. To read through the different steps. Essentially, the first step is applying. And that's why we have the certification resources. And by the way, the worksheet is also in these specific URLs. So if there's a dead link on the CBAP resources, as somebody pointed out, I think it was Ryan who said that, go here for the worksheet. And get a hold of the worksheet to organize your hours, because for CBAP and CCBA, you're required to have those number of hours of experience. And so the worksheet will walk you through project by project, listing information that IIBA is going to require about your projects, including the hours and including the knowledge areas that your hours were part of. So given that, we also suggest that you at least skim through the BA body of knowledge to understand what the heck a knowledge area is, because you're asked to list your project hours by knowledge area. So it doesn't mean reading through 500 pages, but at least kind of skimming the high-level descriptions of what each knowledge area is about to kind of frame your experience in terms of what IIBA describes. And so that's an important thing. So once you get your application going, you're going to have different nuances there with getting contacts and education hours and so forth. Once that is done, then you want to think about scheduling your exam. So once your application is approved, you have 1 year following that in order to sit for your exam. So once your application has been approved, the time is ticking. And by the way, you have to pay for that application, so you don't want to do it unless you're ready. Sometime during that year, you'll start preparing and studying and really then diving into that BA body of knowledge to absorb it and understand the things. And like one person asked about the mnemonics, coming up with some schemes for really absorbing and remembering the body of knowledge details that are important. Now, again, you're not going to be memorizing the thing, but tools like our CBAP study guide were invented to help you absorb it. It's a companion guide. It is a more approachable guide, we feel, based on feedback we've gotten. It's not right for everybody, but a lot of people have benefited from it. And so we have that tool. There are classes available as well. Study groups, check with your local chapter to see if there are any available. And maybe you can help start one up. Maybe you have a group of people in your local IIBA chapter that are similarly interested in you to kind of explore. Sometimes what study groups do is, even before you apply for the exam, we'll use it as the way to understand the BABOK at a high level. So I've seen that approach as well, so that people can kind of build up their knowledge and confidence, and then get serious about applying and doing their final studying. So that approach works as well too. So during the home stretch, you also want to take some practice exam questions, because if you're like me, when I took my PMP, I had not taken a major exam for many, many, many years, well, since college, to be honest. And so it was a learning experience. I spent a long time practicing. I took a class at Watermark on PMP and did some other reading, and then finally spent the last, I don't know how many months doing practice questions. And I wasn't doing 2 to 3 hours a week, or I might do an hour a week, so it kind of stretched on longer than it should have. But the idea was to test myself and then go and learn and read more and study more about the areas I was having trouble with. And then, of course, the exam comes, and so that's the final capstone, of course, sitting for your exam, and the thing of most anxiety for people, and getting through that exam session. So the more practice questions you do, I think the better you can feel about how you'll do in the exam, because probably to me the biggest reason people fail is anxiety, test anxiety. You're not able to recall what you know and do it in light of questions that are thrown at you by the testing. So anything you can do to reduce the test anxiety is a good thing. So that brings me to the final slide of your deck. And I want to point that out before we end today. And that is man, my PowerPoint is super slow today. I don't get it. Okay, we have 10 tips. I'm not going to go through them now, but the kind of a broad brush, if you will, of our top prep tips. And the top one for CBAP, certainly, and maybe CCBA too as well, is about 100 hours on average is what you'll need to commit to in order to help ensure that you'll pass. Our surveys of successful candidates, both CBAP and CCBA, have come up with that as far as a average and median number of what it takes. So that's a long answer to your question. Hopefully that's good. So thank you, Melody, for that. Ashwini, Watermark chapter questions, drills, I'm memorizing. You're also talking about our online study exam that has drills that help you go in knowledge area by knowledge area and really focus in on those. Thank you. Hand above the question chat. Thank you, Debbie. Handout is above the question chat section. Ashwini asks, is the Watermark practice questions not similar to actual test? Yes and no. We have some questions in our study exam that are strictly knowledge-based, and we do that so that you can help understand and absorb the BABOK. They are not meant to be reflective of what you're going to get on the exam. We want to prepare you. So it's like an athlete doing drills and warm-ups. They're not the same movements that you do in an actual game, let's say, but they're designed to get your muscles flexed up and your brain oriented the right way so you can go and perform at your best. We do have many questions that are similar to the real exam. They tend to be the more harder situational, or we have several case studies built into our CBAP exam now, which mimic what you'll see with a long case study description, followed by 3 to 5 questions afterwards. Those are very much like the questions you get on your real exam. So we have a mixture, and that's done on purpose. Christine says, I foresee still doing a hybrid of mainly BSA work and some PM work. Is there any thought of going down the PM path? Should I do the PMI-PPA? Yeah, I think so. Again, it depends on you. You didn't seem motivated to pursue the PM career. I would talk to people around your company to find out what they think in terms of what the company might support. Because what I found is organizations tend to favor one or the other. It's sort of like Microsoft versus Apple, or Android versus iPhone. Sort of corporate mentalities tend to favor one brand over the other. So that might be another thing to do. But I think it's certainly worth looking at. And I don't think you have to limit yourself. Maybe down the road, if you found that you did the wrong thing, it's not even the wrong thing, but if you chose PBA and you regret that, you can always take the CBAP later. And I think it'll be much easier. Once you get one certification, the next one tends to be easier as well. So, all right, thanks, Melody, for clarifying CBAP. Okay, we're at the bottom of the hour. We always schedule these for half an hour, not knowing how many questions people have, and I'm more than happy to stay on. If you have to leave because of the schedule, remember we have the recording posted to the resources page. But I can answer more questions here if you have them. So shoot them on in and let me know what you might have left over. We do these every month. I won't be on next month. I'll be traveling, but Susan Heidorn from our company, she's our Director of Business Analysis, is very capable and has a lot of knowledge as well. And she teaches CBAP and ECBA for us. So she'll be next month, so come on back for more. What else can I suggest or answer for you? I don't see any more questions. If you had some, I could answer them, but if not, I don't want to stretch it out more than we need to. So thanks, Christine. I'm glad it's been helpful. Keep in touch with us. Let us know your progress. If you have more questions, our training consultants are more than just sales representatives. They are truly counselors, and that can help you as well. So contact us for more. Have a great weekend, everybody. Yourselves. Stay warm up in the Northland, and best wishes on getting your certification. Thanks, guys. Talk to you in the future.